Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to edition 52 of the Food Safety Fridays webinar program, sponsored by Safe Food 360, Mettler Toledo, Trace Analytics, and FSSC 22000, who support this program and help to bring you a free education each week and a free certificate of attendance. So hopefully you've got yourself, if you're in San Francisco, hopefully you've got yourself your first coffee of the morning, or if you're in Australia, maybe you've got yourself a beer, but make yourself comfortable, because today we've got David Rosenblatt from Share Consultancy and Training. Today, David's going to be presenting on effective food safety system auditing. So it's useful to you whether you are an auditee or an auditor or both. So you'll get something out of that. David's a great presenter, and we've had him here a few times, and those of you who know he's a very, very good world-class presenter. Okay, so hello, David, on that note. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing okay. Hello, everybody.
Very good. It's nice to have you with us today, and we're going to be talking about auditing, so we'll look forward to that. What time are you on there, David, in Israel?
5 p.m. in Israel.
5 p.m. It's 3 p.m. here in the UK. So we'll see you shortly, David. I'll just tell them about the next week's webinar. If you can get your slides ready, we'll back over to you in a minute.
See you soon.
Okay. We don't have a webinar next week, but the week after we have Jessie Leal from AIB International, and Jessie, the title of that is Preventive Controls and HACCP, related to the HARPC and Food Safety Modernisation Act. If you look on the website, you'll find full details, full synopsis of that, but we will be sending an email out with full details, but you can register early now, early doors. So that's Preventive Controls and HACCP on July the 15th. We're having a week off. Okay, so today, please type your comments and questions in the sidebar throughout. Say hello, discuss with your fellow attendees. Feel free to ask questions that we'll pick up on. We've got a poll, got lots of interaction for you today, so please join in and enjoy. Over to you, David.
Okay, well, good evening or good morning or good afternoon or wherever you are in the world. Before I make an introduction, I want to conduct an opening poll so I know who I'm talking to.
Okay.
So I want to know if people out there are interested in food safety audits because they perform audits, because they are an auditee, both or neither. And if neither, they can go home.
Okay, I've loaded.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, even if they're not interested in auditing, I'm sure they'll enjoy you speaking, David.
Okay. So they can stay. You can stay even if you're not interested, but I want to see who you are out there, so I know how to target the talk.
Okay, well, I can tell you the poll's running the sidebar, and we've got about 58% both, 30% auditors, and 10% auditees, 6% neither. But you are very welcome to stay the neithers. Maybe you are going to be an auditee or an auditor. So that's where we're at, David.
Okay. So can everybody see the slide? Good. So
Yes.
I'm happy that the vast majority, 86%, actually perform audits. I imagine that many of you. Let me just get something. I'm going to get back my slideshow. Okay, there it is. I imagine that a lot of you who perform audits do internal auditing. I'm sure there are some people who do second-party auditing, and maybe even some third-party auditors out there. And I'm really excited about this presentation because I've been performing audits now for over 20 years. I've done hundreds and hundreds of audits all around the world in every type of food establishment imaginable, from farm to fork, chemical plants, packaging material plants, catering facilities, farms, dairies, slaughterhouses, traditional boutique factories, and enormous mass production factories. And I, in 1 hour, I really thought hard about what to share and what not to share, because I could talk about this for days without stopping. And I tried to think, what are the key elements of a successful food safety management system audit? And I tried to put together the essence for you. But I do encourage everybody to ask questions and to put their own inputs on. We're a community and we can share. I'm sure that a lot of people out there also have audit experience. So I'm going to get started. Simon, is any comments about the sound? Does the sound okay?
One or two people have mentioned the sound's a bit low, but others have mentioned it's okay. Can I just say to the audience, obviously turn your speakers up to the max. The other thing is it's far better if you've got headphones or earbuds in. The sound is a lot louder. So if you've got access to some headphones or earbuds, put them in. But the sound is good for me. I mean, just type in the sidebar, people, if the sound is good or not. So we'll just get but there's not a lot we can do anyway, but I think the sound is good. If the slides, SCPCI Davo, you'll say the slides are not clear. If the slides are not clear, then it's likely to be your internet connection. Okay.
Okay.
Comments are coming in that this sounds good, David. So just carry on.
So let's just get going. I'm sure the vast majority have heard about this very, very disastrous food safety incident, outbreak in United States from cantaloupe, Listeria monocytogenes. Eventually, the death toll was 33 people, which is tragic. I'm mentioning this case. I'm going to talk about 2 or 3 cases. I'm mentioning this case because New York Times wrote about this case, and I have an excerpt from it here on October 19th in 2011. It says the farm had passed his food safety audit by an outside contractor just days before the outbreak began. The auditor had been given packaging plant a score of 96 points out of 100. When we look at what was going wrong there, this is from the FDA investigation. Federal regulators cast blame on the farm's off-site packing facility, but that is the one that had been audited. They said it was poorly designed, allowing water to pool on the floors. Its equipment was difficult to clean, and its new washer and dryer system had also been used on raw potatoes. The potatoes may have been decayed, promoting Listeria growth. Growth of the pathogen was probably exasperated by the farm's failure to pre-cool the cantaloupes. The company acknowledged that it had skipped a key step that pulls the heat from the cantaloupe before it is refrigerated, possibly contributing to condensation and moist surfaces that encourage Listeria to grow, so forth and so on. These 2 findings from that, for the investigation, could have been picked up on the food safety audit, and the auditor did give them a score of 96. Now, I'm not blaming the auditor. I'm sure the person who did the audit was a professional, did the best job that they can, but auditing is a skill that must be mastered and developed over years and must be taken very, very seriously. And one of the things that I'm most concerned about when I do an audit is, have I missed something? Is something going on there that I didn't see? Another interesting case that can be mentioned is the famous PCA case. Stu Parnell, the plant manager, the owner, just received a life sentence for the tragedy of having 9 people having died. Hundreds were hospitalized. This is really an interesting case because the plant had been audited by an external auditor at the same time this was going on. This is taken from the investigation. The food safety audit was conducted at this facility on March 27, 2008. Based on the observations made, the information obtained, and the criteria set forth in the whatever standards for food safety. I'm not going to mention the name of the standard or the company who did the audit. The overall food safety level of this facility was considered to be, and it was a superior score, the highest score attainable for a food safety audit. This is the same plant where the FDA found in their investigation, and I'm sorry for this being small, but this is taken directly from the FDA report. Just an example of one of the observations. Failure to perform mechanical manufacturing steps to protect food against contamination. This goes on to say that the roaster, which was a CCP, was not being monitored. It wasn't being recorded. In the same days that the audit was going on, the records for days and days did not show any record of monitoring the CCP. There are many other observations in this audit that should have been picked up. In this case, that should have been picked up, that were picked up by the FDA when they did their audit, when they did their inspection. A major food company that I'm not going to mention its name also audited this plant as a supply to do a supplier audit around the same time that the company did their third-party audit and found it to be and failed them. They said that they were not at a high enough level to supply that company, and they were disqualified. And I also read their audit report. Same type of person came and did an audit, same length of audit, and they found many, many observations that were not picked up by the original auditor. These are tragic cases, and the audit should have been done in a way that would have picked up obvious nonconformities. And I want to remind all the people who are listening here that an audit is not an inspection. Inspections are very, very, very important. What an inspection does, and I have the PDCA Deming continual improvement cycle up here. What an inspection does, you can see my arrow here, is make sure it checks. Here's the check. We're talking about PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act. Inspection checks that what has been planned is actually being done. And this is done by collecting objective evidence. For instance, if it says that equipment should have been washed according to a certain system and it should have been recorded, then the inspector will come in, look at the records, and will say, okay, it has been done or has not been done. That will be the observation. Or if there are cobwebs or an open door or people aren't using their hairnet or people aren't washing their hands and what so forth and so on. These are all checks looking at, do we do what we planned? What's the difference between that and an audit? An audit asks two questions. The first question is, are we doing what we planned? In that case, the audit has an inspection element in it. So walking around a food plant or a packing house or catering kitchen, we look to see, is everything clean, everything in place, all the records filled out, people behaving as they should be behaving. We're checking, we're doing an inspection. What an auditor is required to do in addition, and this is where it becomes, this is the big difference between them, which a lot of people overlook, is we also look to see, is the plan adequate? This is more difficult to do because it won't be on your checklist. The checklist will say, okay, well, have they calibrated the thermometer every 6 months as required? Yes or no? But somebody should be asking the question, is calibration every 6 months adequate or not? Is it effective? And checking, an audit check includes auditing effectiveness. I'm going to go into that in more detail as we go along. This requires a higher degree of mastering the processes and understanding food safety management, and not only what the eye sees walking around a plant. And I'll explain what I mean as we go along. So remember, an audit is not an inspection. I tried to put together a number of principles that I identify to be key principles for an effective food safety audit, and I'll talk about each one of them in turn. Number 1 is passion. Number 2 is professionalism. Number 3, attitude. Number 4, audit tactics. This is number 4, not number 5. I apologize for that typo. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, not 5. And first and foremost, and there are a lot of auditors registered and participating in this webinar. When you're talking about auditing, do it with passion or not at all. Okay. If the audit does not love what he or she is doing, then they should not be doing audits. This is very, very important. I personally love doing audits. I believe that it really makes a change. I believe that I have a direct impact on public health and food safety, and I take it very personally and very passionately. If anybody who is sent to do an audit by any organization does not love what they're doing, then they shouldn't be doing it. This is true for a lot of things in life, but if you're not passionate about doing the audit, it's not going to be a good audit. And I do a lot of witness audits as a part of my job as an auditor trainer. I've trained and qualified over 2,000 auditors throughout my career, both internal and lead auditors. And I do a lot of observation. I have seen many auditors who really don't like it. They don't enjoy it. It's just a job to be done, especially internal auditors. Of course, most internal auditors are doing an internal audit as another part of their regular job, and they don't have time for it. And it's a task they'd rather not be doing. And if that's the case, don't do it. Have somebody else do it. In order to enjoy doing the audit, an auditor needs that passion will drive curiosity, interest in finding nonconformity, and being excited about finding areas for improvement, and feeling good about it. So that's my talk on auditing passion. The picture here shows I'm a veterinarian, and I actually was a practicing clinician for many years. I don't practice anymore. I mostly lecture. But I do want to think about this. I think that having a food safety audit is like going to the doctor for a routine checkup. And if, in my experience, auditees, audited organizations, generally break down to the two groups. Organizations who the audit was forced down their throat. They have to do an audit, otherwise they're not going to do business. And they need their certification, and they'd rather not, but they're forced to do it. And the other group of organizations are those that invite the audit, say, well, I want it audit. I need my certification because I think and I believe that having an external party looking at my systems is beneficial for me. Those are the ones who are like people who go to their annual checkup to the doctor and say, doctor, how am I doing? Check me. I want to know if something's going wrong. I want to know if there's any underlying disease. It's not supposed to be fun. Okay, the doctor is going to stick needles into you and is going to palpate you and auscultate you and send you to a treadmill and all kinds of non-fun stuff, but it's beneficial because you know it's for your health. And you know that the better the doctor is, the more thorough the checkup is going to be, you're going to get the best answers. You may not like them, but you need them. Organizations who do auditing because they have to, because they're forced to do it, like people who go to the doctor and hope that the doctor is a poor doctor who doesn't know what he's doing and probably won't find anything, just there, to sign the papers. Interestingly enough, I thought about this a lot. The reason I put a picture of a kitty here having an examination, not a human being, is because I think that an auditor is more like a veterinarian than a human doctor, because animals tend to hide their diseases. They don't talk to us. They don't volunteer information, and the doctor has to be much more skilled at finding underlying causes in a patient who's not helping you that much. And many of our patients in the auditing business would rather not show their weaknesses, would rather not show the diseases, but still the auditor is there to find them. So it's more challenging, more interesting. Of course, we welcome anybody who's willing to share and say, hey, Mr. Auditor, please look at this and look at that, and we need help here, we need help there. But I'm sure all of you agree that in most cases, the game is let the auditor find it himself. We're not going to show him where our weaknesses are because everybody wants to have a good audit. And the passion of auditing is part of that the quest to try to find the underlying causes, see what's wrong with the organization, and prevent an outbreak, prevent the disease by finding the sources of what's going on. So I hope you can relate to that analogy. I think it makes a lot of sense, and for auditors and auditees, makes them think a little bit different about that specific process they chose to do. The second principle I call professionalism, and professionalism includes a number of items. One is to be prepared. Know the technology. Don't go do an audit in a food technology you're not familiar with. Do your homework. If you have to go to the plant or the organization for a pre-visit, just to learn a little more about it, see what it looks like, do that. Don't go without knowing it. And know the lingo, know the language of that specific technology, that specific type of business. What terms do they use in their industry? Know your audit criteria. You may be doing a BRC audit. You may be doing a global gap audit, maybe ISO 22000, maybe FSSC 22000, maybe any other. Know the criteria well. Do not rely on the checklist. Learn the checklist. Master it. This takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, but only auditors who know the audit criteria can do a good job. Because remember, you cannot state a nonconformity on an audit if there is not a criteria, there's not a criterion to match that nonconformity. Just if something looks like it's not being done right, you cannot state a nonconformity unless you can quote where the requirement is coming from. So know your criteria, know the regulatory requirements for that specific business. Auditors, please don't be ashamed to use HACCP, generic HACCP plans. You don't have to tell everybody about it. You don't have to tell your auditee that's what you did. But almost every industry now has online, somebody's advertised a generic HACCP plan. I'm saying this with a lot of caution. Never use a generic HACCP plan to perform a HACCP study. Never. That's a big mistake. Do not expect the auditee to have a HACCP plan identical to the generic plan. But it is one more reference to look and see what hazards are typical of that specific industry, what are the typical CCPs, what may be overlooked by your auditee. So it's a good tool. It hasn't been around forever. And now when we have the internet and everything's online, I always refresh myself when I go to a plant. What's the latest HACCP generic plan out there? And I don't tell anybody about it. So don't tell anybody, it's our secret. Use known food safety incidents. An organization that does not know a food safety incident in their industry, what had happened, what the investigation said, what has been published, is extremely negligible. I can't stress this. If I'm as an auditor go to a plant and I say, tell me what you learned about the XYZ incident that happened a few months ago to your competitors anywhere in the world, and they say, well, we don't really know what you're talking about, I'm very upset. I think that is malpractice on the part of the organization. And a food safety auditor who goes to audit a certain industry, let's say you're going to do an ice cream plant, and you don't learn about the Blue Bell ice cream incident from cover to cover, you as an auditor are negligent. Very important to know this. There are numerous online resources about food safety incidents. Every morning, my morning routine is go over my emails and look at the top 10, 15 incidents that happened around the world. The ones that are more interesting for me, I open up, read a little bit about. I will send them to some of our customers so that they know what's going on in the world. The other ones I will file under types of industry and types of pathogens or allergens or whatever. And that's my reference when I go do audits. Very helpful. The third principle I want to talk to you about is auditor attitude. And attitude, I think, from my experience now as having done audits for 20 years, I would put it number one. To be a successful auditor, to be able to get to people and obtain their cooperation. So auditee cooperation is crucial to performing an effective food safety audit. Many auditees will begin the audit reluctant, and if you have the right attitude, and this is auditor attitude, not auditee attitude, if you have the right attitude, within minutes, the reluctance will change. Sometimes without the auditee even knowing it's happening. I think it's magic. The most, for me, one of those rewarding things that can happen to me as an auditor is to show up at a site, begin the audit, identify body language of being reluctant, people being reserved, and through my attitude, my positive attitude that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, see them little by little become my friends. Little by little, the ice starts melting, and the audit starts really happening, and it's just an enormously rewarding feeling. Now, even if auditees are candid in their intention to fully cooperate, in the face of an inquisitive auditor, normal people will tend to build defenses and hide their weaknesses. So even if the auditee started the audit with, "Oh yeah, we have an audit. This is going to be fun. We're going to have so much fun. The guys, they're going to find things, and we're going to be able to improve." Blah blah blah. If the auditor shows up with an inquisitive attitude, an inspective attitude, normal people, no matter who, I mean, I'm talking about normal people. Some people are not normal. I'm talking about them. They'll start building defenses. They'll hide their weaknesses. This is normal human behavior, and auditors should remember this. Ensuring cooperation is even more challenging when facing a reluctant auditee in the first place, of course. So you, as an auditors, will find the two types of auditees: those who start out cooperative, and they're easier, and of course, the audit will flow easy, more streaming audit, and those who will be reluctant, which will take a little more tactic on the part of the auditor. Auditors can break down resistance and obtain cooperation using attitude alone. And this is really fun, really interesting. Look at these two guys, two auditors. This is who would you prefer to talk to? Who would you be happier to share things with? Who makes you feel more comfortable? And I would bet on this guy, who's looking me straight in the eye and not looking at me with his, like, the body language of looking over your glasses, sort of condescending, which is not fun. People look you straight in the eye. They have a little smile. You can feel more comfortable with. So, auditor attitude starts with body language. I strongly recommend, if you are an organization that performs a lot of audits, or if you are an individual auditor, look for a good body language course or body language teacher. My company, we do regular body language seminars for auditors, both in the government and in private sector. I personally use a body language expert who is an ex-police investigator, who has enormous experience in reading body language and how to use your body language to get people to cooperate. It's a really important topic, and in auditing, it is beneficial. I used to bring in a body language expert for my internal auditors course to give a few hour seminar. I stopped doing that years ago. I think that an auditor has to have some experience before going to that stage of training. So usually we'll do this seminar or body language seminar. It's usually a one-day seminar for auditors who have at least a year or two of experience auditing, and then they benefit from it more because they can relate to their experiences, to their own style, because auditors have their own specific styles. Tone of voice. How about I ask you an audit question right now, and you try. No, don't tell me because you're not in my audience, but think how you feel. Let's say I want to know about For instance, how often you calibrate your thermometer. So I can say, how often do you calibrate your thermometer? How often do you calibrate your thermometer? Or, how often do you calibrate your thermometer? How often do you calibrate your thermometer? I asked the exact same question. My tone of voice and my lilt changed. We can actually ask the same question once with an inquisitive attitude. I'm the inspector. Show me your papers. Show me your calibration records. Or, hey, could you show me your calibration records? Can I look at your records? More to being, and what I'm doing is I'm showing curiosity. And the psychology of this is people will actually subconsciously respond better to somebody who they feel is not interrogating them, but is interested in what they do. And the tone of voice and lilt of voice will tell this. Demeanor, it's all part of body language of my approach. I want to share a video with you. This is just a little tiny part of a video that I took off YouTube. This is the inquisitive, curious approach of the television character Columbo, played by Peter Falk. May he rest in peace. This is a 1980s, I think, detective series, American detective series. These can be found on YouTube. I do recommend all auditors watch Columbo episodes. So let's get this rolling.
I'm sorry, sir. Just one more thing. You said that your nephew was planning on coming to your party. Yes, sir. And he called you to say he was going to be a little late. That's right. And that was a costume party. For sure, you were there. Had you told your nephew that? Say what? Did Mr. Brower know that your Halloween party was a costume party? Oh, I'm sure he did. Why? Well, it's probably nothing, sir. I'm just trying to understand why, if he was planning on coming to your costume party, why he didn't have a costume.
Okay, was that could everybody hear that, Simon?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's just a little bit example. You could see the body language. The Columbo is famous for being like a little bit, very innocent. I just remembered one more thing. I just have another question. This was his technique of getting people to cooperate, to say things they wouldn't have said otherwise because their defenses are down, because the person is not threatening them by their body language and their demeanor. So this is something that should be practiced. It really, really works. Now, of course, I don't want auditors to go out there and be theatrical actors, but just a little bit of attitude change really will make a difference. I'm going to put my headphones back in so I don't hear background noises. Okay. So to sum this up, try to act curious without being inquisitive. Try it. It works. So that's another what we call an attitude issue. And now the second half of this talk, I'm going to be talking about auditor tactics. And of course, this is like dozens and dozens of tactics, but I'm going to talk about the ones that I think make the biggest difference. And the first one is what I call follow-up questions. Now, not all of my colleagues in the auditing industry agree with me on this one. Most do, so I feel comfortable, but I'm just to be fair, some auditors don't agree. Of course, they're not good auditors, but I'm just kidding. What is a follow-up question? Many observations of non-conformity are the manifestation of an underlying cause. So, for instance, I am an auditor. I'm walking a packaging plant, a packaging house for produce, and I see that the door is a little bit ajar. And of course, doors must be kept closed. It's the GMP requirement. And I make an observation on my audit report. And I write, it was observed that on the west door of the packaging house, the door was found to be ajar in violation of item blah, blah, blah of whatever criterion I am auditing. Many auditors will leave it at that. It is my belief that every observation should be followed up with another question. Now, this is why it is important when you're walking around a site to always have a manager walking with you. This is a rule, a golden rule of auditing. Never talk to employees at the shop floor level without somebody accompanying you, preferably the manager of that specific operation. Now, some people say, whoa, but if the manager is there with you, many people won't be candid because their manager is there. They won't say what they would have said if you were alone in a room with them. Now, this is true, but we're going to have to overcome that because the benefit of having a manager with you is much more important. Because if I see a guy working and the door behind him is open, then I'll say, hey, did you notice that door there is open over there? And he'll say, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll say, well, do you know that the door must be kept closed? Do you know that? And the person will then say, well, yes, I do know that. But if you tried working here in the peak of the summer, in the heat that we have here, without getting that breeze from that little door being ajar, then you know what I'm talking about. It's impossible. This observation is much, much more powerful than the door being ajar. This is what the organization is going to use to prevent more and more nonconformities that have nothing to do with the specific one that we saw. Why is that? Because the next question, the follow-up question that will be to the manager walking with me, did you know about this? Were you aware of the fact that people have to use the door, work with the door ajar because it's too hot to work with it closed? And I will ask the person, have you spoken to anybody about this? Now I'm being a good auditor because I am asking the right follow-up questions. I'm not an inspector. Remember, the open door is the tip of the proverbial iceberg. Am I showing screen?
Yes.
I'm showing.
Yeah.
And I don't really care about the open door. That the inspector will see, they'll yell at somebody and they'll shut it. Because what's going to happen without a follow-up question, the reply to most nonconformities, and this I'm telling you from years and years of experience, will be the employees were retrained or the procedure was updated. I want to talk about that for a second because it's really, really important. If I identify nonconformity in a food establishment and the organization replies on the corrective action plan, the employees were retrained. What does this mean? What was going on leading up to the nonconformity? Why are you retraining people? Did they not know that that was what they were supposed to be doing? And if they did not know, why didn't they know? Don't retrain them. I mean, of course, retrain them. But that's a correction. That's not a corrective action. I don't care about that. Retrain them. I don't want them to do it again, but I want you to understand what's the underlying cause. Maybe it's not a matter of knowledge. Maybe it's not a matter of retraining. Maybe the training itself is not effective. Maybe the training system we use is not an effective system. So why retrain? And if the procedure is being updated, and that is often the case, then we also have, of course, update the procedure. Go ahead and do it. But ask yourself this: why was not the procedure up to date on the day of the audit? What updating a procedure following an audit finding means is the following, and pay attention carefully. This is crucial to understanding the improvement process associated with auditing. The procedure says what should be done. People are doing something else. If the reason they're doing something else is because the procedure is not a good procedure, then the result will be an update of the procedure, which is a good thing. I mean, if the procedure is not a good procedure and people are doing it right, then by all means update the procedure, but ask yourself, how did we arrive at the situation where a procedure is not updated, where people are doing it different? Where, in what time, at what point in history did people stop working according to procedure and not tell anybody about it? And if we don't have the answer, we have to look deeply into our management system. Many, many, many food safety incidents occur because people were not working according to procedure, and the procedures were outdated. And what happens is this. For instance, the procedure is not a perfect procedure. We did everything we could to validate it when we wrote it, but it wasn't perfect. And as we went along, reality showed us that the procedure was not perfect. Some of the people started working differently. Others were more obedient and kept working according to the bad procedure. And then we lost out because the people who kept working according to the bad procedure are the ones who caused the nonconformity and eventually the food safety incident, which is tragic because the ones who knew the procedure was wrong and did the right thing never told anybody about it because the process of understanding that procedures must be met no matter what is not being followed through. And I want to remind you that I think it was Philip Crosby who said that quality is doing the right thing right. And don't underestimate that, because to do the right thing right means that we must know what the right thing is. We must be doing it right. And if the procedure needs to be updated, then we're not doing the right thing in the first place. So remember that. Neither of these, employee being retrained or procedure being updated, will drive improvement. Any finding indicating a deviation from procedure is a symptom of underlying disease. I want to refer you to behavioral-based food safety webinar that I gave. Was it last year, Simon?
It was, David. Yes.
And in that, Simon will can you post a link to that? How does that work?
Yeah, well, we was discussing this before, actually, and this article, the link there, it's an article that's posted on the IFSQM website, and it's actually had, I was saying to David, 7,500 views so far. And at the bottom of that article, you'll find a link to the YouTube video that David's posted there on his slide. So do read that article and watch that video, and you will be enlightened, no doubt.
Because I think that for an auditor, understanding the behavioral-based food safety, the culture of food safety, is crucial, because the follow-up question that I'm talking about, this is how we got into this, can lead you to understand: are we talking about lack of motivation, awareness, capability, or knowledge? This is what we call the MAC model, and is described carefully there. So by the answer given by the employee involved in the violation, we can actually pinpoint the organization towards what needs to be corrected. Because if it's a motivation problem, for instance, training is useless. Well, it's not useless, but we have to choose the right type of training, and that article does detail that. The next tactic that I think is really, really important and life-saving is verification of verification. And I'm not kidding. I made that up, but I can't find any other way to express what I'm trying to say. Remember, verification in quality in general, and specifically in food safety, is the art of verifying that everything I planned to happen is actually happening. And in HACCP, verification includes a number of levels. We as auditors must verify that verification is being performed properly. So routine verification activities should be sampled and audited. Now, verification activities, I want to remind you, include just about anything going on in any given day in a plant, or in a packing house, or in a kitchen. Looking at glass breakage, looking at GMP, looking at people's behaviors, that clothing, looking at the sinks, the soap, the paper towels, looking at verification of cleaning using ATP, looking at verification of CCPs, looking at verification of OPRPs. Constant things are going on. We as auditors must make sure this is being done. So we must sample these. Look for the most crucial ones, sample them, and audit them. In the audit, you want to tell people, show me how it's done. So, for instance, an organization is doing a glass and brittle plastic audit. This is being done by the organization. So I'll take that process, and I'll take the guy in charge of it, and I'll say, show me how you do it. Take out the audit register, walk me through the audit, show me what you look at, how you look at it. I want to verify that the person actually knows how to do it. Show me how it's done. Show me the records. Look at records. Look at current records. Always look at past records. Remember, probably on the day of the audit, you're not going to find many record violations, probably not even the 2 weeks before the audit. If people are excited and preparing, they'll make sure records are in place. Look 2-3 months prior to the audit. Look at the records. Show me your reaction deviations. So when you flip through the records, look for that part of the checklist where there's an X. Where, for instance, if we're talking about, I took the example of a glass breakage audit. Flip through and look for that specific day where somebody found glass breakage. And make sure that that verification actually triggered a response. I've actually seen in many audits that the glass breakage routine audit identifies a cracked piece of plastic, and it's on the checklist. And it's on the checklist every week for months. It's on. Why on earth are you marking that on your checklist week after week if nobody's doing anything about it? So this is part of verification, and I think the most profound element of this is show me the data analysis, and this is neglected very, very often, and it's a pity because nowadays in modern plants, most verification should be being done using electronic record collection. There are many technologies for that. The use of smartphones now to record verification of anything allows people to do data analysis just at the touch of a button. And it's not being done. So how many glass breakages have you experienced over the last 12 months when you do the audits? How many cracks and how many missing pieces have you seen? And I want to see the analysis. I want to see if it's more popular in a certain area of the plant, if it's more popular at a certain time of the month, is it more popular a certain month of the year? Same thing for pest control, for deviations in cleaning, for anything that's being verified regularly must be analyzed to look for trends. This is actually an ISO 22000 requirement. In chapter 8 of ISO 22000, there is a specific requirement to analyze all verification records. I want to end up with maybe the most important lesson when we talk about food safety incidents. And this is the tragic maple leaf listeriosis outbreak that claimed the lives of the last death toll, I believe, was 30, between 20 and 30. I mean, tens of people died. And this is a real tragedy, the specific maple leaf case, because the investigation found that everybody was doing their job as planned. And that's really troubling, especially for me as a food safety specialist. I want to see at a food safety incident somebody who did something wrong, somebody who made a mistake, somebody who wasn't working according to procedures so that we can blame them and know that it wasn't built into the system. In this case, it was. Everybody was doing their job. I do please encourage you to read the report of the independent investigator into the outbreak. This is a really an interesting piece of work done by Sheila Wetherill, a Canadian investigator. And her, I think the most important conclusion of that specific investigative report is the following. And this is an excerpt, this is a quote from her report. And what she says, what was missing was the big picture. Remember that word, the big picture? And I want auditors to walk around plants thinking about that sentence. Recognizing the repeated pattern of presence of listeria on the same production line several weeks after the problem was presumed to have been fixed. Although data were being collected to note such instances, they were not being analyzed by the plant or company headquarters to detect trends over time. Had such analysis been conducted, the reemergence of listeria on a regular basis would have become obvious much sooner. All those lives would have been saved. And I've seen this in plants. This is not something that is unheard of, because the data is telling us a story. Now, auditors are not the ones who are supposed to be analyzing the data. Auditors should be asking the organization, do you analyze the data? You are I once audited a plant that was making salad dressings. Salad dressings were being protected for shelf life by lowering the pH using acidifiers, which is normal. They were monitoring the pH of every batch as it was their CCP monitoring and recording the CCP, recording the pH result. And this data was being collected and it was being verified over the months and months. And every once in a while, there would be a deviation. The deviation would be recorded. It would be corrected. And everything was working as planned. This is what HACCP is for. Nobody was at it. And I asked them, can you show me a statistical analysis of the results of the verification? How often did you have deviations? What is the mean pH level throughout the batches? What is the standard deviation? And they didn't have the answer. And I delivered a severe nonconformity to that audit because I think it's outrageous that an organization is monitoring and verifying something and not analyzing it, because the numbers tell a story. When they did analyze it, they noticed that the pH was in most cases within limits, but it was being skewed over time towards the danger zone. So the instances of deviation was increasing, and nobody could notice that day by day, only by looking at the numbers. And what was going on there was they had a device that doses the acidifying material, and its calibration was going off little by little. So they were monitoring, but eventually they may have had a major food safety incident had they not picked up on it. Final tactic before we wrap up. I think this is a nice one. I really enjoy it. It's just what we call Audit Trail. And when I do an audit for a food plant, no matter what part of the food chain, I always come prepared with a product that organization manufactured. Whether it's a final product or packaging material or raw material, it doesn't matter. I obtain a sample somehow from somewhere. If a customer is sending me to check one of their suppliers, I'll ask them for COA. If I'm going to a retail organization, I'll go to the supermarket the day before and buy one of the products. And that will be my audit. That will be my audit demonstrator. I'll use that product throughout the audit to create the audit trail. So it is one of the most effective ways to gather objective evidence from many audit aspects. Create the trail. This demonstrates a high level of control of the audit process. It shows everybody how all parts are interconnected. So I'll say, okay, I bought a bag of potato chips on the way to your plant, and the code on the bag is blah, 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 and I haven't eaten yet. I'm going to wait till the end of the audit, make a little drama. I want to see about how my bag of potato chips was handled by your people before I eat it. So look at the product code, and can you tell me what truck delivered that specific bag of potato chips from your warehouse to the logistics center? There should be a record. There should be traceability there, and so forth and so on, all the way up to the CCP, the metal detector, all the way up the line to the raw potatoes, and even the growing, the field that grew those potatoes. This gives me randomness, and it can interconnects everything. And the best part about it, it makes a really, really big impression on the auditee. I've been to plants that I hadn't visited in 10 years, and the first thing I said, I remember you. You bought a bag of potato chips and came here with it, and you asked us about it. It makes a really, really good impression, and it shows professionalism. So that's my final tip. We have a few minutes for questions, and I'll let you, Simon, moderate that part.
Yep. Excellent. Thanks very much, David.
Can I go back to my face?
Yeah, you can do. Okay. One thing's clear from that is that you are passionate about auditing. You love auditing, and to be honest with you, I'd like to be audited by you, because I think as an auditee, you'd make me love it too as well. Because I think you're right; it can be seen as a very dry task, and it's about, if you're going to make it effective, using your tactics there, it works and can be an enjoyable experience. So Excellent, fantastic tips. So what we'll do is we'll pick through the questions, but I just have a question that just popped in my head myself, that if a lot of audits these days, you know, are quite long, you know, especially third-party audits, GFSI, they can be 2 days or more, you know, looking through paperwork and out in the plant. If you had 30 minutes in a plant, what would you do? Sorry to put you on the spot, David, but if you had 30 minutes in a plant.
The answer is easy. I would never agree to do that. I would,
right.
I'd refuse. It would be unprofessional. It's not. I just wouldn't do it. Impossible. And actually, if somebody asked me to come to a plant for half a day, I'd also refuse.
Okay.
You need to take the time to look at the records, to talk to the people, to question employees. If you need translation, you need the translator with you. It takes time.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
But put me on the spot. The first thing, if I had 30 minutes, I'd question the food safety team leader about their knowledge in food safety.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good.
It's my experience that one of the major non-conformities in food plants and food establishments is lack of professionalism of the food safety team, relying too much on their consultants. And I am a consultant, so but I have no problem saying this. When we consult a company, we make sure that the people from the plant are very, very highly involved, and that we will not hand in a HACCP plan and say, "Here, give me $5,000." Never. I know there are consultants who do that.
Yeah.
So that would be my one question. Show me your knowledge. You are the food safety team leader. It's your responsibility. Talk to me.
Okay, you've answered it both ways then. That's great. But you're right. I mean, in order to build up the big picture, which is important, you need to really drill down and follow audit trails, etc. So there is a lot of work to do in order to build that up.
And one more tip there, always visit the employee's bathroom.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
It will tell the story.
Okay. Okay, let's see what questions we've got. Thanks, David. One question was, you know, your daily ritual, your morning ritual of where you get your emails and go and look at recalls and things like that. What do you subscribe to, David? Is there anything in particular, any websites?
There are a few. The one I found to be most beneficial is Google Alerts. Google Alerts is something that it's wonderful. It's free. You sign your Google account, go to Google Alerts, and put in any keyword that's interesting for you. If you are a chocolate manufacturer, put in the word chocolate recall. Or if you are a microbiologist, put in the words Listeria Outbreak, whatever you want. I put in, my words are recall and food poisoning. And I also have an alert on my own name.
Right.
Just if my name pops up anywhere on the web, I want to know about it.
Right.
And you can deliver it. It can be delivered ongoing, once a day, once a week. You choose, and I choose to have it once a day. And I look at my Google Alerts. There are other sources. The FDA has a Google Alert, has an alert system. There's the RASFF, the Rapid Alert System for the European Rapid Alert System. These are all excellent tools to get notifications of things going on in the world.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I've never heard of that before, but I guess then Google scrapes the whole internet and delivers that to you in a package rather than having to subscribe to lots of individual ones.
When the word recall, I have to disregard all of the automobile recalls that are out there because they come in as well. So I just erase them, but I will get all the recalls throughout the globe that have been that somebody put up anywhere on the web.
Okay, I'll have a look at that. So that's Google Alerts, everybody.
And
okay.
Also foreign countries, not English-speaking countries. I use the Ministry of Health of Denmark, of England, of all English-speaking, of France, and I will. And if I need to, I'll use Google Translate just to get the essence of the story, to understand what's going on in those countries as well.
Okay. Luella is asking, how do you work the audit trail for raw or packaging material supplier audits?
What I will do is I'll go to the, for instance, packaging material manufacturer. I'll ask one of their customers for a certificate of analysis of one of the products that they have purchased for the last 6 months, and I'll surprise them with that. I'll say, oh, just by, as a matter of coincidence, I have a COA here of something you supplied to company this and this and this, and I'd like to show me and I'll take it from there. It's like an end product. Of course, usually it will be the customer who sent to me to do that. If not, then I'll do a little digging.
Yeah. Okay. Paula Severino is asking how can you make how the auditor can make the relaxed atmosphere during an audit. How do you make the atmosphere relaxed?
Well, truthfully, I mean, you will not have a 100% relaxed atmosphere during an audit all the time. I mean, there is a little bit of tension no matter what. But just coming in an attitude of I'm here to help, I'm a professional, use me, take advantage of my knowledge and my experience, because we all have the same interest in mind, public health and protecting people from the food they eat. So just be nice, just be understanding, watch Columbo videos about how to approach somebody in a very humble manner. I'm not the sheriff who's coming to town to, shoot everybody.
Yeah, and get yourself a brown Mac. Maggie's just said if she had 30 minutes, she'd head straight to the shop floor. But I guess your point is that you're scratching the surface there, not getting to the root cause of some of the issues, I suppose. That's just the visual thing is what's happening on the shop floor, but beneath that is your food safety team.
If the people know you're coming, 30 minutes on the shop floor, everything will be perfect. I promise you.
Yeah. Okay, Nisha is asking, according to ISO 22000, an organization is supposed to analyze results from the verification activities. Can you recommend documents or links that can help guide me in properly doing this?
I repeat that. That was too long for me.
Okay, according to 22000, you're supposed to analyze results from verification activities.
Okay. Guidance document on that. I'm not aware.
Yeah. That
was the question?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not aware of any guidance documentation on that specific process, but it's a lot of common sense. There may be out there. I'm not sure if there is. Maybe somebody on the panel will say, will contribute that, but it's a lot of common sense. I will look at what's being, for instance, what's being verified, and I'll just show me how you analyze that. One of the places you'll see it most is pest control. Large pest control companies will have that ready for you to look at, and that's really interesting to see. And they often will do that. You'll be able to see a trend analysis over years of different pest activity, and then you tell the plant, well, when you do it pest control, why don't you do it with metal detection? Show me your metal detection trends over years. What is your catch analysis? That's even more important, and so forth and so on. So it's just common sense.
Okay. Some nice feedback for you here, David. Laura, one of the best and most informative webinars I have attended lately. I usually work through them, but I was glued to this one. Your passion in the subject ignited me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's have a look up there. It's excellent. I would like to hear and learn much more. For future knowledge, I wouldn't mind a training on reviewing asset plans of suppliers. Great webinar. Please have part 2 and subsequent for this. It's a great topic.
Hey, just call me, Simon,
Oh, it's just all praise, David. No questions. It's just I just hope that this webinar has ignited everyone. And the beauty of your presentation, David, is that you take complex subjects and you break them down so people can take four points, 4 principles away and think, yeah, I need to remember these things. They're easy to digest and remember, and they're very powerful.
I hope I helped.
Yeah. I can't see any more questions. If we have more questions, David, because we've gone past the hour now anyway, what I'll do is, if we have more questions, I'll email you, and if there's anything we need to follow up on, we can do, can't we?
And I wish everybody a great weekend and safe weekend.
Yeah. So on behalf of myself, the IFSQN, and everybody attending today and watching this recording in the future, this is David Rosenblatt from Share Consulting and Training. He's a fantastic speaker, and thanks very much for this again, David.
You're welcome.
Okay. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, the only thing to do is to give you a certificate now, which is a bonus, isn't it, at the end of that? I've loaded that in the sidebar, so you should be seeing that shortly. As I say, there's no webinar next week. We're back in 2 weeks on the 15th of July with Jesse Leal. He's going to be talking about preventive controls and HACCP related to the Food Safety Modernisation Act. So that's on the 15th of July. Today's webinar has been recorded. We'll send you the video, the slides and everything by email as a follow-up. Just to say, if any of you are not members of the IFSQN website or forum, go over to there and sign up. There's a great discussion forum there where you can chat with food safety colleagues about all sorts of subjects like this, auditing, any subject you like. You can ask questions or join in with the discussion. So head over to the forum. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like, subscribe, and spread the message. And we'll see you again soon. So, as I say every week, happy Friday. Enjoy today. Enjoy your weekend. And I think it's a holiday in the US as well. So enjoy your long weekend. Okay, take care, everybody. See you next week.